The 1980s were Europe's golden age of bold ideas, trucks packed with innovation, efficiency, and engineering that pushed the limits of what was possible. Some of these machines were years ahead of their time, and that was exactly the problem. Because despite being brilliant, advanced, and in some cases revolutionary, they still failed. Today, we uncover the misunderstood machine that Europe built with ambition, but the market simply wasn't ready for. Get ready for the 10 European trucks from the 1980s that were brilliant but failed. These aren't just forgotten trucks. They're engineering tragedies. Number 1. MAN F90. The MAN F90, introduced in the late 1980s, was a truck that symbolized the future long before the industry was ready for it. MAN wanted to create a heavy-duty tractor that was not just powerful but also technologically superior to anything on European highways. The result was a semi-truck that delivered aerodynamic efficiency, cabin comfort, and structural strength that rivaled even the best premium long-haul models. The F90 featured a redesigned cabin that received praise for its excellent insulation, spacious sleeper, improved crash structure, and operator-focused ergonomics. In an era when many trucks were still noisy, rough, and minimalist inside, MAN tried to give drivers a more luxurious, car-like experience. Under the hood, the F90 offered engines that were advanced for the period. The inline-six diesels were engineered for better fuel efficiency at highway speeds, and the tractor introduced better cooling layouts and improved torque characteristics. MAN wanted the F90 to be the ideal long-distance hauler for the next decade, and on paper it was. So why did it fail? The main reason was timing. The F90 was expensive, and most fleet operators were not ready to spend that much on a truck during a period of economic uncertainty and rising diesel prices. Competitors like Volvo and Scania were also launching their own iconic models, making the market extremely competitive. MAN could not offer operating costs low enough to justify the higher initial purchase price. Reliability was good, but the early models had electronic issues that scared off buyers used to simpler mechanical trucks. As a result, despite being far ahead of its time, the F90 never reached the dominance MAN expected. It was brilliant, but too modern, too costly, and too early for the conservative 1980s trucking market. Number 2. Renault R340 Turbodiesel. Renault's R series of the 1980s, especially the R340 Turbodiesel, is one of the most interesting, almost successful trucks in European history. When it appeared, the R340 was praised for its bold aerodynamic design. While many trucks of the early 80s still had boxy, flat-faced cabs, Renault focused heavily on airflow, fuel savings, and a smoother driving experience. The sloped front end and rounded roof edges were years ahead of the competition. Aerodynamics was still a new science in trucking, but Renault decided to bet big on it. Under the cab, the 340 horsepower turbocharged diesel engine delivered solid performance and surprisingly good mid-range torque. Drivers who used it on French and Spanish highways often appreciated its stability, predictable handling, and comfortable ride. Renault also attempted to modernize the driving environment by offering better seats, a more car-like dashboard, improved ventilation, and sound insulation. However, these strengths could not save the R340 from commercial failure. Renault at the time struggled with a reputation for questionable long-term reliability in heavy-duty applications. Many fleet operators complained about early mechanical issues, especially with cooling systems and electrical components. Parts were also expensive outside of France, making the truck unpopular in Northern and Eastern Europe. Another problem was that the R340 tried to be both a premium long-haul machine and an affordable fleet truck, and ended up stuck in the middle. Buyers who wanted premium chose Scania or Volvo. Buyers who wanted cheap went with Iveco or older, proven models. The R340 became the forgotten middle child. Good design, good engineering, but poor brand trust and poor positioning. Despite its failure, it was a truck that showed how innovative Europe could be. Today, it's remembered as a stylish, underrated machine that should have achieved much more. Number 3. Iveco Turbostar 19042. When the Iveco Turbostar 9042 arrived in 1984, it was intended to be the strongest long-haul tractor in Europe, and in many ways it was. With a massive 420 horsepower V8 engine, a huge number for the mid-80s, the Turbostar was one of the fastest and most powerful trucks on the continent. It could climb alpine routes with ease, cruise at higher speeds, and deliver impressive torque even when pulling heavy loads. Drivers nicknamed it the Italian Rocket. The cabin was also a breakthrough. Iveco put significant effort into making it one of the most comfortable working environments available. Wide bunks, improved seating, a spacious interior, and a dashboard that wrapped around the driver made it a favorite among truckers. In Italy, Spain, and parts of Eastern Europe, the Turbostar still has a cult following today. But power alone couldn't save the Turbostar from its market struggles. The biggest problem was fuel consumption. The mighty V8 drank diesel at a rate many companies found unacceptable, especially as fuel prices surged in the late 80s. While Volvo and Scania were improving efficiency and delivering more miles per liter, Iveco's Turbostar was burning holes in fleet budgets. The maintenance costs were also significantly higher. The V8 engine required more frequent servicing and parts were expensive. Another issue was competition. Iveco was still a relatively new brand in the 80s, having been formed only years earlier by merging several Italian truck companies. Many operators preferred established names like Mercedes-Benz or DFA, which they trusted more for reliability. Finally, European regulations began tightening emissions and fuel efficiency standards, making huge V8 engines impractical. The Turbostar was brilliant, powerful, and exciting, but it entered a market turning toward efficiency, not brute force. It failed commercially, even though drivers loved it. Number 4. DAF 2800 ATI. The DAF 2800 ATI is one of those trucks that could have dominated Europe with just a bit more innovation. When it launched, it brought forward DAF's new ATI Advanced Turbo Intercooling technology, which allowed for improved power and fuel optimization. The 2800 series was known for its incredible driver comfort, with one of the most spacious cabins of the time. The Dutch manufacturer understood that long-haul operators needed a pleasant environment, and the 2800 delivered with its high roof, wide sleeping area, and excellent forward visibility. In markets like the UK, the 2800 gained popularity for its stability and smooth engine characteristics. The ATI engine really was a leap forward, cleaner, more efficient, and reliable. Many owner-operators still praise it today. But the truck also had major weaknesses. The main issue was that DAF did not upgrade the rest of the vehicle at the same pace as the engine. While the powertrain improved, the chassis and many mechanical components were still based on older 1970s architecture. Competitors like Scania and Volvo were rolling out entirely new platforms with superior suspension, aerodynamics, and safety features. This made the 2800 feel outdated in many ways, even though the engine was competitive. Another problem was pricing. The ATI technology increased production costs, and DAF charged more for the truck. But the improvements were not visible enough to justify the premium. Fleet managers simply saw a truck that looked old and cost more. As Europe moved toward advanced cab designs and stricter environmental rules, the 2800 struggled. Its reliability was good, but its technology balance was uneven. The truck was brilliant for comfort and engine innovation, but commercially overshadowed by more modern rivals. Number 5. Mercedes-Benz NG 1632. Mercedes-Benz is a giant in the trucking world, but not every model they created in the 1980s became a success. The NG New Generation series, especially the 1632 tractor, was a perfect example of a truck that was engineered with extreme precision yet failed to dominate the market the way Mercedes expected. The 1632 featured a powerful V10 diesel engine that produced around 320 horsepower, impressive for its time. Mercedes designed this engine for maximum durability and long service life. In fact, the truck was so well built that many units from the 80s still survive today, some even running in Africa and the Middle East. The NG series also had excellent braking systems, strong chassis construction, and some of the best mechanical reliability of the decade. So why did it fail in Europe? The simple answer: cost. Mercedes over-engineered the truck to a point where it became too expensive for most operators. The 1632 cost significantly more than comparable models from DAF, Volvo, Renault, and Iveco. The fuel consumption of the V10 engine was also higher, which made the truck more expensive to run. At a time when fleets were looking to save money, the Mercedes NG was seen as a luxury choice rather than a practical working truck. Another factor was driver comfort. While Mercedes trucks are known today for premium interiors, the NG series had a cabin that felt outdated and cramped by late 80s standards. Other brands were offering more modern dashboards, better insulation, and improved ergonomics. This combination of high price, high fuel consumption, and average comfort made the 1632 commercially weak in its home market. It was brilliant in engineering, but poorly positioned for real-world economics. Number 6. Volvo F10 Intercooler. The Volvo F10 Intercooler was, without question, one of the most technically advanced European trucks of the 1980s. Volvo built its reputation on safety, durability, and engineering excellence, and the F10 embodied all of these qualities. Introduced as part of Volvo's major engine modernization, the intercooler version delivered improved power, better thermal efficiency, and much lower fuel consumption than its predecessors. For long-haul operators, the F10 intercooler seemed like the perfect upgrade: strong, reliable, and more economical. The cabin, which was already considered excellent when the F10 first launched in the late 1970s, was further improved in the 80s. Better insulation, stronger crash structures, and ergonomic seating made it a favorite among drivers who spent days or weeks on European motorways. Volvo also added new suspension upgrades, helping the truck ride smoother than many competitors. In short, the F10 intercooler had everything: performance, efficiency, and comfort. So why did it underperform commercially, especially compared to the newer F-Series trucks coming soon after? The biggest issue was timing. The F10 was already an older design by the early 80s, and even though the intercooler upgrade revitalized its performance, the base platform was aging. Volvo was preparing to release the more modern FL and FH lines, and many fleet operators chose to wait for the new generation rather than invest in a truck whose replacement was around the corner. The F10 intercooler became stuck between two eras, technically excellent but visually outdated. Another problem was that competitors like Scania were offering similarly powerful trucks with more modern cabins. The F10's boxy design and older dashboard felt dated compared to Scania's sleeker, more driver-friendly interiors. Volvo's own pricing also hurt the F10's chances. It was not the most expensive truck of its time, but it wasn't cheap either, and fleets wanted long-term value from new purchases. In summary, the Volvo F10 intercooler was a brilliant machine that solved many problems of older trucks. But because it was still tied to an aging platform and released during a transition period, it failed to dominate the way it deserved. Number 7. Scania A112 Streamline Prototype. Scania is known for building some of the best European trucks ever made. But in the 1980s, one experimental model became a forgotten chapter in the company's history: the Scania 112 Streamline prototype. This was not a regular production truck. It was Scania's attempt to explore how aerodynamics and airflow could dramatically improve fuel efficiency. The company conducted real-world tests, wind tunnel experiments, and long-distance highway trials. The results were extremely promising, with significant fuel savings compared to standard boxy cabs. The truck featured a sloped front end, narrower panel gaps, roof spoilers molded into the cab, and side skirts designed to reduce turbulence. These ideas would eventually influence the famous 1991 Scania Streamline series, but in the 1980s they were considered too futuristic. Drivers loved the quieter cabin and the reduced wind buffeting, but operators were skeptical. Many fleet managers believed the aerodynamic panels were fragile or expensive to repair. Some doubted whether the fuel savings were worth the higher manufacturing costs. At the same time, Scania's 112 conventional models were already popular and did not need radical changes. The strong demand for standard Scania trucks meant that the company did not need to take a risk on a futuristic aerodynamic concept. Additionally, regulations at the time did not encourage more aerodynamic designs, so there was no legal pressure to adopt them. The prototype never reached mass production, even though the engineering behind it was years ahead of the market. In many ways, it failed because Scania itself was cautious. The company preferred to wait until the market was ready, which finally happened in the early 90s. Today, the A112 Streamline prototype is remembered only by enthusiasts and engineers. It was brilliant, innovative, and efficient, but it arrived a decade before the world was ready, making it one of the most interesting failed European trucks of the 80s. Number 8. Sisu SK 180. Sisu, a Finnish truck manufacturer, has always specialized in building rugged trucks designed for extreme climates. The Sisu SK 180 of the 1980s was an engineering marvel, incredibly strong, extremely durable, and capable of operating in conditions that would destroy most trucks. It was commonly used in the Arctic regions of Finland, Norway, and Russia, where temperatures could drop below 40°C and roads were nothing more than icy tracks. The SK 180 was built with reinforced frames, heavy-duty axles, advanced heating systems, and robust engines that could survive the harshest environments. The cabin was surprisingly comfortable for a truck meant for the polar north. Sisu invested heavily in insulation, heater efficiency, and driver comfort. The engine choices, including options sourced from Cummins and Rolls-Royce diesel divisions, delivered massive torque at low RPM, which was essential for hauling timber, oil equipment, and mining loads across frozen landscapes. So why did the SK 180 fail commercially? The first reason was its extremely limited market. While the truck was perfect for Scandinavian and Arctic conditions, its design made little sense in Central or Southern Europe. It was overbuilt, heavy, and expensive. Fleet operators in Germany, France, Spain, or the UK did not need a truck capable of surviving extreme ice storms. They needed fuel efficiency and lightweight construction. The second major problem was brand visibility. Sisu was not a well-known name outside Finland and a few niche industries. Without a strong dealership or maintenance network, most European operators avoided it. The SK 180 was simply too specialized, too strong, and too expensive for everyday highway use. In the end, the Sisu SK 180 was brilliant at what it was designed for, but its narrow purpose meant it never achieved commercial success. It failed as a mass-market truck, even though it excelled in the harshest conditions on Earth. Number 9. Magirus-Deutz 290D19. Magirus-Deutz is one of the most fascinating names in European truck history. Known for their air-cooled engines, Magirus built trucks that were incredibly simple, reliable, and low maintenance. The 290D19 semi-truck, launched in the early 1980s, represented the peak of the company's air-cooled engineering. The powerful V10 diesel engine produced excellent torque and worked efficiently even in hot climates. For operators in Southern Europe and the Middle East, the 290D19 was a dream. No radiator problems, no coolant leaks, no overheating on long mountain climbs. The cab design, however, was old-fashioned compared to other European trucks of the time. It was rugged and boxy, offering durability but lacking the comfort of Volvo, DAF, or Mercedes cabins. Still, many drivers appreciated its simplicity and excellent visibility. The failure of the 290D19 had nothing to do with performance. It was a victim of changing regulations and industry trends. By the mid-80s, air-cooled engines were becoming outdated, emission standards were tightening across Europe, and water-cooled engines were much easier to modify to meet new rules. Air-cooled systems struggled to control combustion temperatures precisely, leading to higher emissions. Another issue was corporate restructuring. Magirus-Deutz became part of Iveco, and the new parent company wanted to streamline its product lineup. Iveco preferred its own water-cooled engines and modern cab designs, so the Magirus air-cooled models were slowly phased out. The 290D19 was brilliant for reliability, simplicity, and heat resistance, but it failed because the world moved toward modern designs, stricter emissions, and more comfortable cabins. It was a truck from another era, trying to survive in a rapidly changing industry. Number 10. Pegaso Troner. The Pegaso Troner, introduced in the late 1980s, was Spain's most ambitious attempt to enter the competitive world of European long-haul trucking. Pegaso wanted to create a truck capable of competing with Volvo, Scania, and Mercedes-Benz. The Troner came with a powerful turbocharged engine, modern cab design, and features that were surprisingly advanced. The cabin was large, comfortable, and equipped with better aerodynamics than many of its rivals. Drivers who tested it praised the spacious sleeper, large windows, and comfortable long-distance ride. Pegaso partnered with Cummins to develop the engine, giving the Troner a strong and reliable power plant. On paper, everything looked promising. So what went wrong? The biggest issue was timing and market trust. Pegaso did not have a strong reputation outside Spain. Buyers from Northern Europe were hesitant to purchase a truck from a brand that had limited dealership support and uncertain long-term reliability. Spare parts availability was inconsistent, and maintenance outside Spain could be challenging. Another problem was financial instability. Pegaso was already struggling as a company, and the Troner arrived too late to save it. Internal management issues, rising manufacturing costs, and poor international strategy caused the truck to fade quickly. When Iveco eventually took over Pegaso, the Troner was discontinued. Despite its failure, the Troner was a brilliant truck, aerodynamic, comfortable, and well-powered. It represented what Spain was capable of producing. Unfortunately, without strong financial backing, global support, or market presence, the Troner